Hello everybody, Lampini here once again, and today is another fantastic week of football predictions. Today we're going to be going over Week 12 of the 2024 NFL season. Before I get started, just a little disclaimer here. I am recording this on a Monday. Usually what I'll do is I'll record Tuesday, edit Wednesday, and try and get it out either Wednesday night or sometime on Thursday. Certain circumstances have not allowed me to do that this time, so I'm recording it on Monday, which means we don't have the results for the Texans-Cowboys yet. But I'm just going to go with what I have so far with my predictions. So getting it started here, you can see right there. I'm 9-4 so far this week with the predictions. I thought the Falcons were going to beat the Broncos. I thought the Ravens were going to beat the Steelers. More on the Steelers and Ravens later. The Seahawks upset the 49ers, and a bit of wishful thinking, I thought the Commanders were going to beat the Eagles. But everything else was pretty good. Shout out to myself for saying the Bills were going to beat the Chiefs. That's one of the better calls I've made this season. I just had a feeling, and I can go into explaining a little bit more, as the predictions go on. But 9-4 for the week, and for the season, I'm 115-51. So it's been a pretty good season in terms of predictions. I'm glad I started keeping track of it because now I can really see how great I am at predicting these games. So without further ado, let's get started with Thursday Night Football. So for Thursday night, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. So the Steelers ended up beating the Ravens 18-16. No points were scored on offense for the Steelers. It was 5 field goals by Chris Boswell. Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals, so they really missed those. They probably could have beaten the Steelers if not for that. But the Steelers are now 8-2, and they are right now right in the thick of things for potentially grabbing the 1 seed. They're between the Bills and Chiefs, but I think the Steelers have quietly become a very, very underrated team. They've always been a quarterback away since they got rid of Ben Roethlisberger, since Ben Roethlisberger retired, rather. And I think Russell Wilson is a great addition to their team because they just need a guy that can execute the plays, and that's exactly what's happening. And you're really seeing the stability of the Steelers franchise on full display here. Russell Wilson was 23 of 36 for 205 yards and an interception. He was sacked 4 times, 67.5 passer rating. So, he didn't have the best game, but still got the job done. They won, not much to say. They beat their division rivals. They're in firm control of that division. Even with a loss, they still have control of the division. As for the Browns, they finally got Deshaun Cosby out of their head, but they're still not really going anywhere. Jameis Winston had a pretty good game. He was 30 of 46 for 395 yards and 2 touchdowns, so a very impressive showing by him. Jerry Jeudy had 6 receptions for 142 yards and a touchdown, so one of the best games of his career. They still came up short, 35-14 against the Saints, who got to keep an eye on the Saints. It looks like they may be back with scoring 35 points. But I'm going with the Steelers on this one. I know it's a divisional round matchup, but the Steelers have a very tough schedule ahead of them. They're facing all their divisional opponents in the second half of the season, so I'm expecting them to lose a couple games. But if they clean up on their division and only lose 1 or 2 games, the Steelers are going to be a team to actually really legitimately be reckoned with. Because Russell Wilson seems to be back. If Russell Wilson plays at this level for the rest of the season, I think he's comeback player of the year, to be honest. A lot of people were saying it might be Kirk Cousins, but I think it's going to be Russell Wilson, to be honest. So I'm going with the Steelers on Thursday night. So next up, we have quite a doozy. We have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Carolina Panthers. Hypothetically speaking, the best team versus the worst team. I'm going to kind of just glance over this one. I feel like the Chiefs are going to win this one. They did lose to the Bills, but like I said, the Bills have always beaten the Chiefs in the regular season. This is not anything new, and that's why I went with the Bills. Mahomes was 23 of 33 for 196 yards, 3 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions. So Mahomes still putting the ball in harm's way, throwing interceptions, but he's still throwing touchdowns on top of that. So Mahomes is ready, is primed to have one of the worst statistical seasons of his career. What the Chiefs need to do is they need to fire Matt Nagy and get a proper offensive coordinator, because I think that's one of the reasons why their offense has been floundering the past couple of years. They need to find a good offensive coordinator, hire him, and then you're going to see Mahomes' numbers really, really get a lot better. As for the Panthers, they had a good showing against the Giants in London. They had a bye last week. Bryce Young was 15 of 25, 126 yards and a touchdown. And then Chuba Hubbard had the best game of his career, 28 carries for 153 yards and a touchdown. So very impressive there by Chuba Hubbard. He's making a name for himself as one of the better running backs in the league. But it's going to be the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to win on the road. If they lose to the Panthers, it'd be the upset of the season. But I don't think it's going to happen. The Super Bowl champion Chiefs are going to win. They're going to beat the Panthers. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears. The Vikings beat the Tennessee Titans in a pretty good showing. And then the Bears lost on a blocked field goal to the Green Bay Packers. So the Bears have not won a game since the Hail Mary. To put it simply, they have not won a game since the Hail Mary. Caleb Williams did not have a touchdown on the day. He is still struggling his rookie year, and I think a lot of that has to do with the Bears just not being able to develop quarterbacks, to be honest. I think that a lot of it, I think he's talented, and I think he can be a quarterback in this league. I think it's very similar to Trevor Lawrence, where he's just not in the best situation to succeed. So I think that has a lot to do with it. The Green Bay Packers are a very good team, and right now the Vikings and Packers at 8-2 and 7-3 respectively are the 5th and 6th seeds right now in the NFC. Commanders coming in at number 7. We'll go over the playoff picture at the end of the predictions, but I'm going with the Vikings on this one. They are operating on all cylinders. Sam Darnold had another pretty good game, threw for 2 touchdowns. I am going to go with the Vikings on this one. You never know what's going to happen in a divisional game, and I certainly hope the Bears win because that helps the Commanders get a higher seeding for the playoffs, but I'm going with the Vikings. I think they're going to win. All right, so next up, we have the Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. So like I said, the Houston Texans haven't played yet. They're going against the Cowboys, but I do think they're going to win. The Titans are looking for a top 5 draft spot. Will Levis was back in the game, but he didn't get all right. He was 17 for 31, 295 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. I think the Titans need to go for a quarterback in the draft. They do not have anything going for them right now. They have a pretty good defense, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a bit afraid when the Commanders play them, because they play them next week, week 13. But the Texans should win. They are 6-4, and they are not doing as well as we expected them to do. But I do think that they're going to win, so I am going with the Houston Texans on this one. So we have the Detroit Lions at the Indianapolis Colts coming up next. I've been saying this. The Lions are the best team in the NFL by far. They went against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who admittedly aren't a very good team. But what do good teams do against bad teams? They beat them 52-6. So, and that's exactly what they did. So I'm just going to rifle off some stats for you because there's a lot to go around with the Lions. So Jared Goff was 24 of 29, 412 yards, 4 touchdowns, 158.3 passer rating. So he had a perfect passer rating. He had almost as many touchdowns as incompletions. Incredible. David Montgomery, 15 carries, 75 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, 11 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 11 receptions for 161 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Jamison Williams had 4 receptions for 124 yards and a touchdown. 4 receptions for 124 yards means he averaged 31 yards a reception. So they destroyed the Jaguars. No other way to really say it. And I think the Lions are going to beat the Colts too. Anthony Richardson had, he had a typical Anthony Richardson game. It was actually one of his better games. He was 20 of 30 for 272 yards and a touchdown, and he also rushed for 2 rushing touchdowns. But they beat the Jets 28-27. They are 5-6 right now. It would be a huge win for them if they could beat the Lions, but, you're going to see it when we go over the power rankings again. The Lions are number 1. They have been number 1. I never thought we'd be in an age where the Lions are the de facto best team in the NFL, but that's what's happening. To put it simply, that is what is happening. They are the best team in the league, and they show no signs of slowing down, and I'm very excited to see what they're going to do in the playoffs because I would love to see the Lions make the Super Bowl. Just to say that they did it, because they're one of the few teams that have never been to the Super Bowl, let alone win it. They've never even been to the Super Bowl. They came very close last year. I would love to see them go, and I would love to see them win. It'd be very cathartic, and I think it'd be great to see Dan Campbell finally complete this rebuild and bring the Lions to a place of prosperity. But I'm going with the Lions on this one. They're going to beat the Colts. Next up, we have the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. So a lot of people are saying now that Tua Tagovailoa is back that the Dolphins are going to try and make a run for the playoffs. When we go over the playoff picture, we'll see how close they are into the hunt. But I don't really know. They have a lot to go after. They looked good against the Raiders, and I'm not saying that they're a bad team, even though they're 4-6. I think they are a pretty good team. They scored 34 points against the Raiders. Tua Tagovailoa was 28 of 36 for 288 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is pretty good. And you never know what's going to happen in a divisional matchup. And the Patriots are playing a little bit better now that Drake May is playing. They had him throw the ball 40 times, which was very interesting. He was 30 of 40, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, which, again, pretty impressive stuff that they trust their rookie quarterback to throw the ball 40 times, and he only had 1 interception, which is pretty good. But I am going to go with the Dolphins on this one. I think they're going to beat the Patriots. They have more to play for. Once they get at 500 and they're at 6-6, then I think we can be like, okay, the Dolphins are at 6-6. They're really making a run now, and they may have a chance, if they get hot, to barely sneak in with a playoff spot. But when we go over the playoff picture at the end of the video, we'll see how much of a chance that they stand. But I'm going with the Dolphins. So next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New York Giants. Both of these teams are really just struggling. The Buccaneers were on a bye, but they're now 4-6. They looked to be doing pretty good, but injuries, losing Chris Godwin and Mike Evans was huge, and injuries have really been ravaging them this season, so not too much to say about them. But then again, the Giants are playing Daniel Jones, although I do think they're going to bench him for this because they just can't keep doing it. They can't keep having Daniel Jones play. They just can't. He was 22 of 37, 190 yards, and 2 interceptions. They lost to the Carolina Panthers. Like, the embarrassment levels for Daniel Jones, it's just got, like, they're going to lose the locker room if he keeps playing. I know they paid him all that money, but it is getting out of hand. Like, it's over for him. The fact that he missed those 2 wide open players on that flea flicker in the game in London, it's just like, as a Commanders fan, I love it. I'd love for them to keep Daniel Jones in, even though he seems to have his 2 best games against us, but he's not a franchise quarterback. And the sooner they move on from him, the sooner they can get their new guy. I don't know who it's going to be because the quarterback class this upcoming year is pretty weak. I don't know if they try and grab a veteran bridge quarterback or what, but the Giants are in a terrible situation because they haven't even started their rebuild, and they're 2-8. Like, at least when the Commanders started their rebuild, they started it early last year, and that's why they're doing as well as they are. But, I mean, I think the Buccaneers are going to win just purely because of how bad the Giants are, so I'm going with the Buccaneers. All right, so now it's Washington Commanders time. The Dallas Cowboys at the Washington Commanders. This was a huge rivalry in the 80s when the Cowboys and Redskins were both really good teams. Not so much now. Well, Cowboys are bad, and the Commanders are still pretty good. About Thursday, they lost to the Eagles 26-18. That is very deceptive. It was a very close game for the majority of the game. Jake Elliott missed 2 field goals that kept us in the game. And I say once again, we weren't outclassed or anything against the Eagles, but like, we are 6-5 if we don't get that Hail Mary, and I think that's more reflective of what this team is right now, and that we are slightly above average. Now, we were the worst team in the league last year. So the fact that we are even just above average means that we're doing pretty darn good in our rebuild, that it's been a huge turnaround for us. I just think maybe we had higher expectations with how Jane Daniels was playing early in the season. But I think his ribs are still bothering him, to be honest. He has not looked the best these last 2 games against the Steelers and the Eagles. And I know they're 2 top 10 defenses, but he's missing, like, he missed Noah Brown in that one throw. Like, he does not look 100%, to put it simply. So he has a long layoff because they played Thursday. He has a long time to rest. So this is a perfect get-right game for us because we play the Cowboys and then we play the Titans before our bye week. And, like, we haven't beaten a team over 500. Well, we beat the Cardinals, but they weren't 500 at the time. So we have had a pretty easy schedule. And like I said, I'm afraid that we're going to turn into the Dolphins where, like, we beat up on bad teams, but we can't beat good teams. But I think Jaden Daniels is hurt still, and his ribs are still bothering him. He needs this long layoff. I think the Commanders are going to win. I think Jaden Daniels is still Offensive Rookie of the Year. There's still a lot of season to go. Bo Nix is creeping up on him as we'll go in. Bo Nix is really starting to make a case for Offensive Rookie of the Year. It'd be really sad if he took it from Jaden Daniels because, you know, I love myself. I love me some Jaden Daniels. But I think that the Commanders are – I think they are still a good team. I think that they played the number 2 seed in both conferences. They played 2 of the best teams in the league, and when we go to the power rankings, these are 2 teams in the power rankings. So I think that, like, they just played two very good teams, and they played them hard. It doesn't help that they played the Eagles on a short week on the road. You know, it's just, it is what it is. We didn't even have Marshawn Lattimore, so I don't even think, like, when Marshawn Lattimore comes in, I think our defense is going to get better. I think our defense has been playing really well. I just think in the fourth quarter they got tired, and they couldn't. After that last interception by Jaden Daniels, it was just like, all right, that's it. We can't do this. You know what I mean? That's when they knew the game was over, and the Eagles piled on the points. But I do think the Commanders are going to win. They're going to improve to 8-4. They are still very much in control of their own destiny here. They're the number 7 seed right now, but I see no reason why they can't improve from that. I see no reason why they can't enter the bye week 9-4. And 9-4 is an incredible improvement from them. Remember, the Commanders haven't had double-digit wins since 2012. And I think it's very, very possible that they finish this year with 11 wins. Going from 4-13 to 11-6, I think is a huge accomplishment, whether we win a playoff game or not. This is just the beginning for them. So I'm going with the Commanders. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos at the Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, sorry. There's not much to say about this one. The Broncos are going to win. But Bo Nix is really, really starting to come into his own here. He was 28 of 33 for 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, 145 passer rating against the Atlanta Falcons. They thrashed them 38-6. So the Broncos are 6-5 right now. They're doing pretty well. I thought that they were pretenders when the Ravens destroyed them. But the Falcons are a leading team. They're they're first in their division at 6-4, at 6-5. So it's like, all right, so maybe the Broncos are a bit for real. The Broncos are going to win. I'm not really going to talk about this too much. The Raiders, I think, are one of the worst teams in the league, if not the worst team in the league. They're going to be vying for a top 5 draft. They need to draft a quarterback. If they get Shedeur Sanders or whatever, I mean, as long as the Raiders have their ownership group, or Mark Davis, they're not going anywhere. They haven't done anything in 25 years, and it's going to keep going that way. They're a poverty franchise. I'm going with the Broncos. Bo Nix has really shown some strides these last couple weeks. He may steal Offensive Rookie of the Year from Jaden Daniels. I certainly hope that doesn't happen, but he is playing very, very well. He's really benefiting from Sean Payton. He had some growing pains early in the year, but he's getting better and better, and the future looks bright in Denver. I'm going with the Broncos. So, next up, the San Francisco 49ers at the Green Bay Packers. Packers are coming off a win. The 49ers are coming off of a gut-wrenching loss against the Seahawks where Geno Smith ran for a touchdown in the last 30 seconds of the fourth quarter. You hate to lose like that, San Francisco, but sucks to suck. They are 5-5, and they have grossly underperformed to their expectations this year. Brock Purdy, once again, Brock Purdy having a pretty good game. 21 of 28, 159 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. So, didn't play terribly. Neither did Geno Smith, but, we'll talk about him next week. Jordan Love, rather, he had an all right game. 13 of 17, 261 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. I think the Packers are going to win this game. The Packers are a much better team. They're 7-3. They're building off of the successes they had last year. They're like the Steelers. They're a well-run franchise. They're a well-run team. They've had the most stability at quarterback of any team in the NFL, back-to-back Hall of Famers. I don't think Jordan Love is going to be a Hall of Famer. I think he's going to be Barry McCockiner, the famous YouTuber that I like to watch, described it as Jordan Love being the Jeff Garcia to Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers is Steve Young and Joe Montana. For those of you who don't know, the 49ers had back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks. They had Joe Montana and Steve Young in the 80s and 90s, and then when Steve Young retired, they had Jeff Garcia, who was a good quarterback. He made a couple Pro Bowls. He threw for 30 touchdowns. He perfectly serviceable, but he wasn't a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I think that might be the same thing with Jordan Love. The Packers had Brett Favre, then they had Aaron Rodgers, and now they have Jordan Love, who is going to be fine, but he's probably not going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. You know what I mean? So I am going with the Packers. They're going to win and improve to 8-3, and it's going to make the Commanders moving up a spot even more difficult. But I'm going with the Packers. So next up, we have the Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the NFC West is really, really crazy. So I'm just going to put it up right here. Cardinals are 6-4, and all the other teams are 5-5. That division is ripe for the taking. So this is a game for the Seahawks to win, a very, very important game for them to win. And they barely squeaked by with a win from the San Francisco 49ers, a fellow division rival that could really keep them in the game. The Cardinals thrashed the Jets last week. They were on a bye this week, last week, 31-6. Kyler Murray was 22 of 24 for 266 yards and a touchdown. Threw 2 incompletions the entire game. Now that's impressive. He is having a very good, solid season. No Pro Bowls, I don't think, but he's showing that he can be the franchise quarterback. And sometimes that's all you need. There was a lot of suspicion with Kyler. There was a lot of hesitancy with Kyler, but he's really stepped up his game this year, and he's really shown a lot of good flashes. I'm just glad these flashes happened before the Commanders, after the Commanders played them, because we look like a very good team now that we beat them as badly as we did. I think that the Cardinals are going to win this one. I think they are running on a lot of momentum. They went off the bye week in a very hot fashion. They have a lot of time to rest up, which is a good time to go on the road. And they need this win to further their lead in the division, so they know how important this game is. I think the Cardinals are going to win. They're going to improve to 7-4. So next up is our Sunday night football game. We have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Los Angeles Rams. Both teams are coming off of wins. The Eagles looked very impressive. Jalen Hurts had a pretty good game. The real star of the show was Saquon Barkley, though. 26 carries, 146 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Those 2 rushing touchdowns happened at the end of the game when it was pretty much sealed. But a very impressive showing by Saquon Barkley. Him and Derrick Henry, I think, are in the race for Offensive Player of the Year right now. I still think it is Derrick Henry at this point in time, but Saquon is really making his case. And the Eagles are on the rise. They are looking like the 2022 Eagles that we haven't seen for a while. And you'll see in the power rankings, spoiler, they're in the power rankings. They're 8-2, and they have taken control of the NFC East, unfortunately, from my Commanders. But deservedly so. They're looking like a very, very good team. As for the Rams, they beat the New England Patriots 28-22. And this stat line I'm about to mention to you is all you need to know why they won that game. Matthew Stafford was 18-27 for 295 yards and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Puka Nacua had 7 receptions for 123 yards and a touchdown. And then Cooper Kupp had 6 receptions for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. That right there. When Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua play, Matthew Stafford gets them the ball, and the Rams are dangerous. That is what keeps the Rams in these games, and that's what's going to make this game a lot more of an open and shut case. The Rams are 5-5, and this win could propel them to win the division if the Cardinals lose. I am still going to go with the Eagles on this one, but the Rams are going to sneak up on people because while they aren't looking the best record-wise, when Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and Matt Stafford, for that matter, play, they are very, very dangerous. They're a dangerous team when all 3 of those guys play. They can beat any team in this league when those 3 play. So I am going with the Eagles, but don't be surprised if it's a close game because the Rams are really going to show up. All right, so now we're on the Monday night game. The Baltimore Ravens at the Los Angeles Chargers. So the Chargers had a big statement game against the Bengals, 34-27. Justin Herbert was 17-36 for 297 yards and 2 touchdowns. He has only thrown 1 interception this season, which is very impressive. The Chargers have been winning nice, clean, boring football. Now, here's the thing. You win boring football, that's going to win you in the playoffs. The Chargers have quietly made it to 7-3, and they are in the wild card, but that's only because the Chiefs are in their division. But they are looking really, really good. They are a top 10 team right now. And spoilers, I think they're going to upset the Ravens here. A lot of people are expecting the Ravens to win, but the Chargers have one of the best defenses in the league. And Justin Herbert does not need to do a lot to win games, but that's the scary part. Justin Herbert can do a lot to win games, but he's like a Ferrari in the car shop right now with how some of these games have been going, but he can turn it on like that. We know the kind of quarterback Justin Herbert is, and he can turn it on like that. So that's what I think makes the Chargers very scary, is that they are winning these games, and we're not even seeing Justin Herbert at full potential. And it's probably because Jim Harbaugh doesn't need to show his cards. He doesn't need to have Justin Herbert at full potential. He's going to need him in this game against the Ravens because the Ravens do not want to drop 2 straight again. Lamar did not have a very good game. He was missing players left and right. And the Ravens need to win this game. The Ravens need to win this game. Derrick Henry scored another rushing touchdown, and he was kind of the heartbeat of the offense again, really did what he could. His first carry was a fumble, which was, he was upset about that. But Lamar didn't have the best game. He was 16 of 33 for 207 yards, a touchdown, and interception, 66.1 passer rating. Not the best showing by him, but this is going to be a very important game for the Ravens. But I don't think they're going to win. I think the Chargers are going to win. They're going to improve to 8-3. And if the Chiefs weren't in their division, they'd be division leaders, and they would be one of the best teams in the AFC. But those are my predictions. The AFC is looking very, very top-heavy, and it looks like they are really the best right now in terms of things. The Eagles have really stepped their game up. Now it is time for the almighty power rankings. So, what are we looking at here? So, Lions are number 1, obviously. 9-1. They now are tied for the best record in the league. But they have a 159 point differential. And the season's not even over. Ending the season with 159 as their point differential is already an all-time great season in general. Like if a team is 150 point differential, that means that you are comfortably dominant, right? And the season's not even over. Like the Lions could end with a positive 200 point differential. For full disclosure, the last year's Ravens had a positive 200 point differential. The 2019 Ravens had a 200 point differential. The 85 Bears, the 1991 Redskins. Some of the all-time great teams had a positive 200 point differential. So this would probably be the best team the Lions have fielded in the last 80 years, maybe in franchise history. They're number 1. Number 2, I'm going with the Chiefs. They're still 9-1. Their point differential is only positive 49, but they're still getting the job done day in, day out, and they've been very impressive doing it. Number 3, I'm going with the Bills. They just upset the undefeated Chiefs. They're playing like how they should. 106 point differential, and they have technically, when you look at Pro Football Reference's simple rating system, which is team quality relative to average, it goes with like their strength of schedule and their margin of victory. They are the second highest in the league behind the Detroit Lions. So that's why they are in there. They are number 3 in the power rankings. So for these last 2 spots, I'm looking at 3 teams. I'm looking at the Chargers, Steelers, and Eagles for these last 2 spots. Okay? So this is the difficult thing. All 3 of these teams won, and all 3 of them won in impressive ways. So what I am going to do is I'm going to do number 4, Eagles, number 5, Chargers. So the Steelers barely lose out on the power rankings this week, mainly because they couldn't get in the end zone against the Ravens. They kicked their way to a bunch of field goals, and if Justin Tucker made a couple of his field goals, the Steelers would have lost the game. So that's why they barely miss out on the power rankings here. The Chargers, I think the fact that they keep winning and the fact that they are second in point differential right now, they have just gotten better and better as the season has gone on. You have some teams that start hot, they drop down, they get better. The Chargers have been like this, continuously getting better and better, and it's really starting to get the attention of a lot of teams now. And the same goes for the Eagles. They have really stepped up their game. They're starting to look like the Eagles that we all expect them to be. As much as I hate the Eagles, I got to give credit where credit is due. That's what they're doing. They're looking like the best team. They have a positive 80 point differential. Full disclosure, as you guys remember, the 2022 Eagles were on a tear, and they were Super Bowl or bust. They were Super Bowl or bust. Their point differential was positive 133 at the end of the season. The Lions are at 159. So it gives you an idea of how good the Lions are. But that is my power ranking. Number 1, Lions. 2, Chiefs. 3, Bills. 4, Eagles. 5, Chargers. So some teams that were snubbed. We have the Ravens snubbed, Steelers snubbed, Broncos snubbed, Commanders snubbed, Packers snubbed. These are all very good teams, just not good enough to make the top 5. Now we come to the playoff picture. Okay. starting off with the AFC. The AFC is pretty set in stone, I would say. You have the Chiefs and Bills, number 1 and 2. Steelers are the 3rd seed. Texans are the 4th seed. We have the Chargers, Ravens, and Broncos at 5, 6, and 7, respectively. And there are not a lot of teams in the hunt right now that can catch up to them. If the Colts win and the Broncos lose, then the Colts are kind of making their way in. But right now, I'm looking at the Dolphins and I'm looking at the Bengals. The Dolphins, I think, are the biggest threat to the Denver Broncos for that 7th seed. I don't see the Ravens losing it, and I don't see the Chargers losing it. So right now, it's just the Broncos' wild card spot to lose. And I think if any team is going to do it, it's going to be the Dolphins because they just got their quarterback back. And the Bengals are falling deeper and deeper into a hole. No matter how good they are on paper, they're losing these games. They're 4 and 7, and I don't think it's going to end up with them. So that's the playoff picture for the AFC. Now we look at the NFC, which I would say is even more set in stone. The Lions are the number 1 seed, get with the first round bye. Eagles are number 2.
Why, hello there, everybody. Well, it appears that my camera decided to die out midway through my predictions for the NFC playoff picture. So I'm going to just be going over a little bit of what I missed out here. The Cardinals are the number 3 seed. The Falcons are the number 4 seed. Vikings, Packers, and Commanders are the 5, 6, and 7 seeds, respectively. My main summarization here is that it doesn't look like a lot of these teams that are in the hunt are going to be going for the wild card. As you can see, the Rams, Seahawks, and Falcons are all 5 and 5, respectively. So they are mainly going to be going for the Cardinals' 3rd seed for the NFC West division. So right now that means the Commanders are kind of safe, but I still hope that they win. That's basically the whole thing with the NFC playoff picture. You can see the Buccaneers down there at 4 and 6. They're not really going to make a run for anything unless the Falcons have some kind of a cataclysmic collapse and the Buccaneers are able to get it done without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. That's probably all we're really going to see. So that does it for the reviews. I apologize for ending the video on this way, but the microphone was muted after this. I don't know if it died or what, but the rest of the video was just in silence, so this is me redacting it and kind of going over my review here. So that concludes the review. I will see you guys next week.